Hey everyone, DFA here, welcome back to the channel. And yes, Fenyang has popped up in the shipyard, and I completely overlooked it when it came out. It got buffed in the meantime, so I figured that it might be worthwhile taking a look at it again. And yeah, let's see where it takes us. And there we have it, next to a couple of other tier 8 destroyers and gunboats, and also the Akizuki. Immediately you notice the difference with the scales. One more engine, one more smoke, and 3 AA2 charges. But what do you give up for that extra smoke? The first thing you're giving up is your torpedo reload. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal, we'll talk about that in a moment. But for the rest it's pretty much an Akizuki, almost the same amount of hit points, a little bit better concealment, the speed is not great, the maneuverability it's not great for a destroyer. Remember, those are gunboats, they are not meant to be super maneuverable. But they are meant to have lots of guns, and indeed they do get 8 100mm guns. Surprisingly enough, not the same reload time. The Fenyang gets 3.6 seconds reload, the Akizuki only 3 seconds. And yeah, but it does a little bit more damage per shell, and yeah, essentially it's not a great thing because your DPM is still inferior and your fire chance is also pretty inferior, 4.7 to 5.6. Still, it's pretty cool at tier 8, and as far as tier 8 gunboats are performing in terms of guns, these are some of the best ones. Turret traverse is also excellent at 18 degrees, so I recommend that you improve the reload with this one. And then we get to the torpedoes, where there is a big difference between the two ships. So the Fenyang has deep water torpedoes, that's fine, it's Pan-Asian. The Akizuki does not. The reload time slightly inferior, okay, why not? But the range is pretty much the same, but you don't get the torpedo. So concretely your burst damage is capped at around 20,000 with the Fenyang, where the Akizuki can easily reach twice as much as that and kind of behave like a normal destroyer, 2 times per game, 3 times with the right commander setup. So yeah, the Fenyang, it's a pure gunboat. And finally the AA, so the large caliber AA is the same, the small caliber is a little bit, well, it's actually pretty much inferior on the Fenyang. You get the AA2, so overall you will be a better AL ship than the Akizuki. So yeah, let's take a look at that thing in action. So in a sense you're a lesser Akizuki with better AA and 1 extra smoke, but you do trade a bit of DPM, well actually a substantial amount of DPM, about 10%, but still it's not bad, and also quite a lot of fires per minute, but still 4.7, that's not bad for an extra smoke. So you get an extra smoke, and yeah, I think that the main difference between the two ships is that the Akizuki, it's free, and it also comes with an amazing selection of elite and epic commanders. You get Japanese commanders to improve the performance of your torpedoes, to give you an extra torpedo reload, to give you an extra torpedo reload and an extra smoke. Well, you have so many flavors of epic commanders that this is pretty cool, but the Fenyang actually does have something similar. So this guy, this epic commander, which you see me use in the video, and he comes equipped with the exploit, but also the night raid skill, 1 extra engine accelerator, 1 smoke and 1 torpedo reload, so the same skill as Mikawa from the Japanese line. And so that's the commander you see me use here, and indeed that does mean that you're getting 4 smoke screens for the Fenyang, something that only the Arugumo can claim on the Japanese line. And so that means that you can basically spend half of the game in a smoke screen. I'm exaggerating a bit, but you get the idea. And yeah, expose yourself a lot more than if you were, I would say, a pure free-to-play Akizuki. So that's exactly what you see me do here, and we do manage to set that Mogami on fire after dueling that Benson. But yeah, we're going to run away because honestly I do not care too much about these guys. I see an ideal target for farming there, and that is that lion. So that is a perfect scenario for a ship like the Fenyang, for any gunboat for that matter, because this guy is completely engaged with my battleships and I can farm absolutely no problem. So that is how you're supposed to play that kinds of gunboats. You use your superior mobility and maneuverability to get into positions or engagements where the enemy team is already focused on something else, and yeah, you use your torpedoes if he's completely unaware of your presence and doesn't seem to be paying too much attention. Unfortunately, I only get one hit here because I was firing them very close to the to their maximum range, so that's a mistake by me. I should have waited a little bit more indeed, but you see that even with the lowest fire chance of the Fenyang, we're still able to set that guy on a triple fire and get our first kill of the game. And so what is next for the Fenyang? Well, there is an isolated battleship right in front. That's the Anhalt, which is an easy target for such a ship, essentially because, yeah, it doesn't have very high fire and flooding resistance. It's pretty easy to set and keep on fire, but the second enemy DD decides to play a little trick to my team and decides to hide and ambush behind that island. So yeah, but that's fine. I do have sufficient range on my guns to start farming that Anhalt. And if he decides to take a deeper look at me, pay a little bit too much attention, I can hide in a smoke screen, absolutely no problem. So yeah, the Fletcher is thinking about ambushing now probably the rest of my team, so probably not me that he was targeting there. But we're going to hit the island with our the Anhalt with our torpedoes, and that's, I guess, where you see the difference with the Akizuki. With the Akizuki, I would have sent 8 torpedoes in its face and I would have gotten a little bit more damage out of it. Here I'm left with my guns, but it's okay, we're still going to set him on fire, we're still going to farm it. And essentially, since we're in the smoke screen and we're moving left, right and center into it, we're actually pretty safe. So we do have 2 smoke charges remaining for the rest of the game. That's good because there are still 2 cruisers on the enemy team and 2 destroyers, so we might actually need them at some point. Keep in mind that those are not super good at hunting destroyers, because they do have a very yeah, they have shell arcs that are not super convenient from hitting small targets. They're pretty good for farming battleships, shooting over islands. That is one of the key features of the Japanese gunboat line, and this is kind of one of them. But in terms of firing straight at your enemy or hitting a really relatively fast and small nimble target at range, it's a little bit more complicated. So those are not really meant to be hunting other destroyers. So yeah, but they're meant to be farming battleships, and this is exactly what we have been doing so far with that with that thing. So yeah, still 2 cruisers on the enemy team. The game is still relatively close, so we still kind of have to be careful, but yeah. I'm not entirely sure what's happening there. One of our cruisers is completely isolated, but we should be able to join me joining with that Mogami. In any case, I do have 1 smoke screen up and ready, so as soon as that Mogami decides to turn around and shoot at me, I go hide and I'm relatively safe again. Yeah, so there you go. So yeah, maybe we can actually debrief that thing in the meantime. So as you can see, I think I've called that video like throwing money at it for a good reason, because it does work really well if you have that epic commander, if you have the historical camo, if you have that night raid skill. So there you go. Yeah, then you get 4 smokes at tier 8, and that's pretty good indeed. Is it better than an Akizuki? I honestly don't think so, because the Akizuki is free, but even if you don't take that into account, the Akizuki still has the ability to nuke ships 2 times per game and fire 8 torpedoes in a salvo. So it can actually play the destroyers when you need it to play the destroyer, and that thing cannot, unfortunately. So honestly, I would not. It's fun if I play it with my press account and all the bells and whistles, but honestly, I would not recommend it. If you want to try that playstyle, just grind the Akizuki instead. And there you will have a much better selection of elite and epic commanders that are available. Also pretty easy to get for many of them. And overall, a stock Akizuki will always beat a stock Fenyang in my opinion. So there you go, Fenyang pays a pretty heavy price for that extra smoke screen. And while it can be fun, it will still require quite a lot of money to actually be fun and somewhat competitive at tier 8. Yeah, so there you go, that was my take on it. Hope you've enjoyed it, learned a couple of interesting things. Stay safe, take care, that was DFA signing out. Bye bye!